Hello guys, this is Doran's Movies, and today I'll be giving you top 10 strongest lore classes in World of Warcraft, listing the most powerful classes, focusing mainly on the playable ones. Do keep in mind that these are just my own opinions and observations based on destruction, and that the list is not very strict. Power is a very subjective thing, and just because one class is higher, it doesn't mean that it would be able to easily deal with others. So, without further ado, let's get into the lore. Number 10. Hunters. Hunters are one of the most versatile classes that we know. Technically, a person with a ranged weapon and a pet is considered a hunter, but there are so many possible options out there. They can use bows, crossbows, rifles, melee weapons. They can have one or multiple pets of various kinds. So you have a rifleman, a beastmaster, a survivalist, all really bundled under one single class. So it is really hard to put hunters in a mold, but overall the mixture of their abilities can prove to be very practical. They can use traps to surprise their foes and use range, especially with rifles, to kill their enemies before they even know what hit them. On top of this, the connection hunters have with beasts is a tremendous advantage, multiplying their power by a significant margin. Although their biggest weakness is melee, as once they lose the range, they pretty much lose their leverage. However, certain hunters do specialize in melee combat, and with powerful beasts at their side, they can even best the strongest warriors. So overall, even though the term hunter is very loose, as a class depending on the specialization, they can prove to be very powerful. Number 9. Monks. As masters of bare-handed combat, the monks are one of the most unique classes out there. The original and pretty much the only ones until recently were the Pandaren. Thousands of years ago they were enslaved by the Mogu, and as they were forbidden to use weapons, they had to rely on their fists and inner energy. Surprisingly enough, by mastering the so-called Chi, common people became much more powerful than regular warriors. By harnessing this mysterious energy, they were able to empower themselves significantly, from absorbing incoming blows to making their fists as hard as steel. The monks became a force to be reckoned with. On top of this, they could also balance the chi in others, taking the roles of healers as well as crafting powerful brews to aid them and their allies in combat. The monks freed the Pandaren, created a new society, and helped preserve it for thousands of years. Today, most races are learning this new art, and without a doubt the monks are going to be crucial in the battles to come. Number 8. Shamans. Shamans are spiritual guides and mediators of the elements. Even though they aren't necessarily a combat class, they can still become very powerful. Their abilities range from healing to causing serious destruction. Shamans can call down thunderstorms, unleash bolts of lightning, torrents of lava, spikes from earth, even going as far as collapsing parts of mountains. In a way, their abilities are endless, as they're all dependent on the environment and the elements around them. This is both a good and a bad thing at the same time. The good side is that the shamans can turn the very land against their opponents, but the bad side is that they don't have much control over their own power. The point of a shaman is to help the elements, and in return the elements help them. Essentially, it is a relationship of mutual respect and trust, and just bartering for favors. This means that shamans can't abuse their powers, and if they do, they will get abandoned, pretty much becoming completely useless. On the other side, there are the so-called dark shamans who enslave and extort the elements, becoming incredibly powerful. Generally, this practice almost always backfires, but when it does last, the dark shamans are a serious force to be dealt with. So all in all, both the regular and the dark shaman are one of the strongest classes in the universe. Number 7. Druids. As guardians of nature and protectors of life, the druids are one of the most important classes on Azeroth. They harness the raw energy of nature, using it for both offensive and defensive purposes. In the history of the world, the druids played a very important role and heavily influenced its development. In fact, it was druidism that helped defeat the Burning Legion 2 times, as well as preserve the nature to this day. Much like the shaman, the druids have nearly endless abilities, all very dependent on the environment. They can heal, ensnare, create cyclones, turn forests against their enemies, along with many other powers. On top of this, they can also shapeshift into a large variety of animals, morphing into bears, cats, birds, all dependent on the situation. However, their biggest weakness is their reliance on the environment, meaning that while extremely powerful in a forest, a druid would be next to useless in a completely dead wasteland. Nevertheless, their big variety of abilities does make them one of the strongest classes out there. Number 6. Paladins. All across the universe, there are servants of light. Most notable that we know would be the Draenei. However, on Azeroth, the Paladins are a very recent addition. Some 30 years ago, when the orcs invaded, the priests proved to be ineffective in combat, and for this reason, the first Paladin order was formed. Mixing the martial prowess of a warrior with the abilities of a priest, they became a very powerful weapon. From the humans, the Paladins did spread to other Azeroth races, and they are all at the core very similar, except the Tauren, who are more sun druids than light warriors. Regardless of the differences, the Paladins are a powerful class, and from the defeat of the orcs to the defeat of the Lich King, they had a significant role in history. Their abilities range from healing, creating shields, up to casting the light offensively in order to smite their foes. They are very much capable of fighting against most other classes, some easier than the others, as the light proves to be very powerful and effective. Paladins were crucial in saving the world recently, and today, with a Legion threat, they will no doubt be of great use once again. Number 5. Death Knights. Even though there are technically 3 generations, right now I'm mainly referring to the most recent one, Death Knights are a very unique class and a very powerful one as well. They were raised from fallen champions by the Lich King for the purpose of serving the Scourge. Stripped of emotion, Death Knights are undead killing machines that utilize melee combat combined with rune magic. When it comes to just melee, they are much stronger than they were in their previous life, as Undeath has granted them increased strength, endless stamina, and a serious resistance to pain. However, their biggest power is rune magic, and even though they are not really casters, their limited use of magic greatly boosts their efficiency. Death Knights can boil the blood of their enemies, suffocate, freeze, as well as control lesser undead. On top of this, they have great defensive capabilities, as they're able to wear Serenite armor that very few people can, and create anti-magic shields which grants them serious protection against incoming spells. Overall, Death Knights are much more powerful than a regular warrior, but their biggest weakness is that even though they do utilize the magic, their use is very limited and they aren't necessarily as powerful as a necromancer would be or any other serious spellcaster. Nevertheless, the Death Knights are one of the most powerful classes and are able to go toe to toe with almost any other class. Number 4. Shadow Priests. Even though priests lore-wise, Shadow Priests are completely different from the Holy Ones. Shadow Priests control void energy, which is one of the strongest, if not the strongest energy in the universe, as it is the direct opposite of the light. Even though today they are decently widespread, their practice is still quite a mystery. They tap into the void, and in order to truly understand the void and harness its power, you need to be driven completely completely mad. As counterintuitive as this might seem, these priests work on the brink of madness and abuse this potency for their own power gain. Through the void, they can feed off their opponent's minds, drive them to insanity, and empower themselves. On top of this, they can also call upon the creatures of the void to serve them in battle. However, their biggest weakness is that even though they do tap into such a powerful and dark energy, their potential is very much limited. Regardless, even with the space they have to work around with, Shadow Priests are a serious force to be reckoned with. Number 3. Mages. Mages are one of the most influential classes in the history of Azeroth. Initially, most of them were the Highborn and later on the High Elves, but in the recent time the practice has spread to almost all other races. Almost anyone can become a mage, but very few take on this road of hard work and dedication. Through formidable efforts, students learn to control the powerful energy that is arcane, which they can use for various purposes. Mages learn many different schools, all consisting of a different variety of spells, and they can also combine them into spells of much greater power. A mage can be effective both offensively and defensively. They can turn their enemies into dust, destroy their weapons, polymorph, while also being able to create magic shields and other different types of blocks and barriers. On top of this, a mage can teleport, which is not only practical but also useful in both avoiding combat, escaping combat, and just having a general edge in a duel. However, their biggest weakness is obviously melee, and unless they blink fast enough or destroy the enemy before they can reach them, they can be in serious trouble. Also, even though mages do control one of the strongest energies in the entire universe, they can't really reach anywhere close to the true potential, even with a powerful enough magic source. Nevertheless, mages are still one of the strongest classes currently available. Number 2. Demon Hunters. Demon Hunters are an ancient concept, but only a very recently widespread class. Almost all of the Demon Hunters today were trained by Illidan for the purpose of defeating the Legion some 10 years ago. Through their brutal ritual, these Night Elves and Blood Elves were transformed into a weapon. Instead of tapping into the demonic powers, they embraced the demon by literally devouring him, becoming part demons themselves. This sacrifice is great, and their previous lives are completely gone, but in return, those few that manage to survive this process receive superhuman powers. Demon Hunters are insanely fast and agile, while also being incredibly strong for their size. Their biggest achievement was invading the homeworld of the Dreadlords, as well as the demonic base of Mardoom. Trained to fight demons, they can defeat even the most powerful ones that others wouldn't even be able to get close to. However, this can also be their weakness, as while they do exist to combat the Burning Legion, they're not specialized against other classes. Regardless, their superhuman abilities grant them an incredible edge, being able to outmaneuver almost any melee fighter, as well as strike a spellcaster before he could even cast a spell. In-game, the Demon Hunters are quite different from the lore, but lore-wise they are very few in numbers and are an elite group of very powerful individuals. Number 1. Warlocks. Warlocks are the most powerful and volatile of all spellcasters. Where others have put a limit, Warlocks have passed it for the sake of power. Of course, there are obviously consequences, and Warlocks have gone through serious sacrifices. However, in return, they control one of the strongest forces in the universe, Fel Magic and the Void. Of course, the playable Warlocks have a line they wouldn't cross for their own safety and sanity, but it is not rare that they descend into madness after they start abusing their power. The strongest warlocks are those of the Burning Legion that are bathed in fell energy, but the mortal ones that fight for a good cause can still be very powerful on their own. Generally, they don't descend into fell or bathe in the void, but instead they manipulate it and try to leverage the damage and the risk scale. They can summon powerful creatures, harvest the souls of their enemies, drive them insane, and create spells of significant destructive potential. Although their weakness is that they can overextend themselves and lose control when tinkering with these dark energies. However, even when in the safe zone, they can still do a lot of damage. Warlocks are spellcasters that are not afraid to sacrifice everything and have no end to their own growth, and for this reason, they're the most powerful class in Warcraft. Alright, and that is all I have for this video. Do keep in mind that these are just my own opinions and it is only natural that people won't agree with everything. Also, as I mentioned at the start, just because some classes are ahead of others, it doesn't mean that they're much stronger than them, as some classes counter each other while others really don't. If you enjoyed this video, do subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this, and like the video as it really helps out and keeps the channel going. Thanks a lot for taking time out of the day to watch this video, and see you next time.